Hey there, everyone. Welcome to, whatever episode number this is. So check this out. I've got an automatic crafting table turning wheat into plant balls, and if you could see, there's a fair amount of them just going out. What's happening is, I actually manually uncrated the wheat that I had and just kind of threw it in my sorting chest and it ended up here. Now, the reason why I ended up here is because this thing right here is a logistics chassis Mark II with a terminus module on it, terminating paper and wheat. You can see that I turned on both my paper factory and my wheat farm, and both of these chests very quickly filled up. The terminus module is basically just an item sync module with lower priority. So if there's no more space in the chest that the wheat and the paper is supposed to go into, it'll come in here. The wheat gets turned into plant balls, which are piped into the system. This is my receive-only frequency. And the paper gets turned into books. And the books, as you can see, get piped out. And once there are 3 of them, turned into a bookshelf. Now you may be saying, where does the wood for the bookshelves come from? Well, this chest right here, right next to it. Alright, I have a supplier pipe here and just say keep 64 wood stocked. Alright, just from the network. So all it has to do is supply the books. So now I can run my paper factory and my wheat farm all day long and still get stuff out of it. And as you can see, I already have, almost 5 stacks in here. And hey, look at that. Plant balls. Almost 2 stacks so far. I've got a use for them in a bit. Come to think of it, there's one thing back here that I haven't talked about. Right here, there's just a chest. A random silver chest here. And there is a satellite pipe, number 3. It's just sitting there. You say, what's that for? Well, actually, for a while there, I was manually asking the system for just tons of bookshelves. Like, give me 1 or 2 stacks of bookshelves, and you know what it did? It didn't do it. It gave me like 1 stack, and then I came down here, and there's a bunch of wood lying around. So here's what I did. I came over here, I said, hey, you know what, inputs? None of that crap. Send your wood and books to this satellite, number 3, right? So, adjacent chest, and that'll do the job. And if it happens to fill up a third of this chest with wood, then that's fine because it can handle it. But you got to be careful with that for these logistics systems, because once it reaches the max stack size for that item, it'll just start throwing them out into the world, and that's no good. So that's one way to overcome that if you find yourself 1 or 2 recipes doing that a lot, requesting great amounts of them that you by all rights should not be. Now over here, I have done a few more things. Now this area looks a bit more industrious. It does. I mean, you're aware of the compressor and the macerator and the furnace, right? Okay, those were done before. Here's the centrifuge extractor, and it's got the terminus and extractor modules. It takes sticky resin, water cells, and biocells. Yeah, it does. Now, biocells are actually made by, in my compressor, I taught it, take the plant balls on request and crush them down into compressed plants, which I made an automatic crafting recipe for, take that in an empty cell and turn it into a biocell. So the biocells come over here and they get extracted into what's called biofuel cells, which are something that I will get into later, but not right now. Now here's something interesting about these machines. Come back here and look at the chest, right? If an item enters this chest that is requested by the terminus module on here that it's connected to, it'll go right into it, or at least it'll try. And vice versa, if something is smelted out of this, that wants to be, taken by that chest, it'll go in there. I would actually like to smelt up stone as well into stone wafers. Well, I can't really do that because anytime I request stone, then it's just going to take the cobble, smelt it up, and then the stone, which I want to go back into that chest, is actually going to stay in this pipe and just jiggle around madly, okay? Because that's how it works. However, I can, because of the unique properties of the red matter furnace, attach a crafting logistics pipe right on the side here, on the network, and tell it that stone becomes stone wafers. So I could still have it make stone wafers for me, bypassing that interesting restriction. And in a like vein, if I come over here and I look, the water cells will be taken by this thing to make coolant cells, which are requested by this. So in a like vein, I can't very well, request a hydration cell, which is a coolant cell that's been run through an extractor again, to be made by this. However, I did make a regular, just simple, basic extractor. come down here, you can see I colored these cables, and this is actually running on low voltage right here. So, you know, just a basic extractor, and then coolant cell becomes hydration cell, just a crafting pipe right on the top, just because I needed one more, and I didn't want it to take, you know, 1 EU per tick. And, you know, this will take forever, but I don't intend to be pulling out a bunch. In fact, at some point, I'm just gonna, you know, keep a small stock somewhere of them, because they're for industrial craft agriculture, and at some point, I'm gonna get back to it, which is also why I made that Weed X a while back. So, you know, those machines are up and they're going, and I also added the recipe for the overclocker upgrades, which take coolant cells, and since the coolant cells don't stack, they're on the satellite pipe, you know, right here. Alright, now, if you watched my mining special, you know that I went and I got a fair amount of resources. Specifically, I was iron hunting, and I had more than relative success. You see, right now I have 28 blocks of iron. I started, you know, when I went out for mining, I had about 4. But actually, when everything was said and done, I had about 44 of them. I've actually used a few of them in between episodes for most of that stuff I showed you, and there's a few other resources I set aside, actually. Now, I had more gold than this, but I just requested a lot of gold for something as well. As you can see, I picked up a relatively insane amount of copper and tin. And, you know, thanks to my system set up how it is, you know, the compressionizer thingamabob, you know, I've got tons of blocks of this stuff. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to take 30 copper blocks and 10 tin blocks. Come over to this project table. We're going to unblock these. Looking good. Now, I'm going to make a ludicrous amount of bronze. Alright, great. So far so good. I'm going to take this bronze and turn it into iron by doing something interesting. First, I'm going to craft up rails with my bronze. It's a fairly cheap way to do this too, you know, if you just want some rails. And actually, I'm going to save out 2 stacks of these rails, just in case I want to use them later. But the rest of these guys are going in my alloy furnaces. See, they're slowly cooking up into iron. Now, with this method, I can turn 6 bronze into 3 iron. So, it's not incredibly efficient. However, do remember that 3/4 of the input of this were just copper. And I still have almost a full stack of copper blocks. Alright, so that got me a little over 2 stacks of iron. I'll just manually block these. Alright, so you know, I'm up to 43 blocks of iron now. That's pretty darn good. Make some more contraptions. Speaking of more contraptions, it's that time again. It's time for... What will he craft? Ooh, that was a nice graphic. Anyway, let's just look inside this to-do chest. Oh, that looks daunting. Well, I may as well start with this bottom left one. Now, if you take dirt, refined iron, glowstone dust, and a compressor, you can get recyclers. These little machines are awesome. You can use it to make scrap out of items you don't want. And if you noticed before, these are actually hanging out in this chest for a while, you know, the mats to make them. Now, next on my list, take the bottom right one. Now, this one's a bit obscure. It's actually from a side mod called Rocket Science. If I take an extractor, advanced circuit, advanced machine block, refined iron, and redstone, I can make an isotopic separator. And this little guy actually runs on low voltage, which is why I have this thing prepared for it. So I'm going to place it down, and there it is. Now I've prepared some water cells ahead of time, because what you do is you put water cells in the isotopic separator. It takes 10 of them and turns them into something called a deuterium cell. And the nice thing about this is you get 9/10 of your empty cells back. So I'm just going to let this run for a bit. Now, deuterium cells, what are those things for? I mean, what, you're going to make a weird machine that uses them? Well, yeah, I am actually. It's called the fusion reactor, and it takes 8 reactor chambers. These reactor chambers take advanced alloys and machine blocks, which I can already pull out of my system, integrated heat dispersers, which, if I tell it to make integrated reactor plating, I would be able to pull out of my system, and of course the integrated reactor plating itself. So let's start with the reactor plating. Now these things do not stack, but all I need is an advanced alloy and 4 copper. So I'm just going to teach my logistics system how to make integrated reactor plating. Now this thing's finished with 1 stack and made 6 deuterium. I'm just going to put these empty cells back in the system, and request an additional 64 water cells to continue the process. Now we come over here. We're going to tell this thing how to make integrated heat dispersers out of integrated reactor plating, coolant cells, copper, and advanced circuit. We'll import that, but we're also going to need to use this satellite pipe right here. So ID 2, and we're going to take out the plating and the coolant cells, briefly grab them and tell them that 2 coolant cells and 1 plating go into the satellite, and then of course replace them. So now I should be able to make integrated heat dispersers. Now I switched this guy to a diamond chest because I have a feeling what I'm about to do would make this thing very, very unhappy, and it would just shoot items all over. So I'm telling this to make out of advanced alloys, integrated reactor plating, integrated heat dispersers, and a machine block, a reactor chamber. This little guy is very expensive. So import, tell it satellite number 2, and take out the ones that do not stack, which is the heat dispersers and the reactor plating. Of course, tell it 1 and 3 go into the satellite pipe, and then put them back. So now, in theory, I should be able to pull out reactor chambers from my system. Of course, the amount of resources necessary for this is very high, and because of the amount of processing, it would also take a decent amount of time. Now first, I am going to need an advanced machine block. And just to be safe, let's make the power storage unit first, in case I don't have enough resources. I'm going to need an MFE, an advanced circuit, an additional advanced machine block, and 6 Lapotron crystals to get an MFSU. This little guy, I dare not place him down yet. You know, he's hardy, man. He can hold 10 million energy units. 10 million. It's a lot of energy units. It's a lot. He also outputs high voltage, which none of my machines can handle. So I'm just going to make an MV transformer out of a machine block and copper cables, which will safely shrink its output down to medium voltage packets. And I also have a low voltage transformer that I prepare, and a few cables. Now you see these reactor chambers? I'm going to need 8 of them, and I'm not certain if my system can handle it. But I'm going to give it a try, so here goes. Oh my gosh. Successful. Is that good or bad? Oh! My copper blocks jumped down by like 30. Ooh. That's acceptable. I'm going to have to watch this thing. Oh, check this out. Look at all the junk going into this chest. Should have made it an alchemical chest so I could look inside. But this guy's got to make tons of advanced alloys. I mean, look at... Oh, he's making refined iron, because he didn't have refined iron. They requested that much refined iron. And look, this Extractor Mark II module still doesn't come close to pulling him out quickly enough. Let's just help this out a bit. If I just chuck a stack in there, I'll draw him out quickly. Speed it up a bit. Now it should also be making... Yep, it's cooking the advanced alloys along. That's nice. And, looks like it's already done with the coolant cells. Oh man, look at all that junk going in there. Shoo, 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 shoo. Going in and out of all these. Oh, there goes a chamber. Wonder how many of these are done. Oh, sweet, googly woogly. They're all done. Sweet! I can't believe it. That was awesome. I mean, it did it for me. I just had to lay the framework. Can't believe how awesome that was. Fusion reactor! Darn it. This is the most expensive thing I have ever held in my hands. Oh no! No, I got it. Now, I actually have a few more things that I am required to make first. And this next one is not cheap either. But you see how much Mobius fuel I have here? Watch, 94. I'm going to have a significant amount less than that once I request 64 carbon plates. Now that's successful, but it's going to take a long time. Because it's going to take the Mobius fuel, it's going to turn it to alchemical coal, and oh good lord, it's exploding out the side. See, this is what happens. I didn't think about that, did I? Let's just bust through here. If I just throw it in here, it'll probably do it. There it goes. Alright, so, you know, just babysit the system occasionally. Good thing I had those chests to just throw stuff in there. Oh, I did it again. I'm gonna have to feed this thing. Now wait just a darn minute. How does a logistics chassis overflow? Alright, well, we'll just, had to help it along a bit. So I just ran between both my macerators, doing this manually for a bit, helping it out. And I'll just throw all the stuff I got into this chest here. Should be wanting it pretty soon. Out it goes! Yeah, I never thought about it before, but these guys are actually pretty slow. Well, still really fun. Oh, how beautiful. 64 carbon plates. And these guys are an interesting component of the fusion reactor. It takes 64 gold, ouch, 64 redstone, meh, and 64 carbon plate, which is probably a decent amount of Mobius fuel. And then, get some graphene gold lattice. Get 64 of those suckers. And then what I do is I compress those down into superconductors. Well, as you can see, this guy is angry with me once again because I was just out testing something in my test world, double checking, and, well, he wasn't happy. Now, these superconductors are done. And what I do is I take these guys, arrange them in like a circular pattern to get superconductor loops, and arrange them again in loop formation to get one superconducting coils. Expensive little buggers, aren't they? See? This guy agrees with me. Now, while I'm making random things that I'm not explaining, why don't I make a few more? I'm doing it anyway, okay? Just shut up, Sky. Advanced circuit, machine block, refined iron, copper cable makes one of the 3 heating units to this system. You can defy the reality as much as you want, but it does make one of the 3 pieces. Another one requires I'm trying to do a video here. Will you shut up? Requires a frequency transmitter, which is just a copper cable and 2 electronic circuits. I'm gonna have to talk louder. That thing is annoying. An advanced circuit and a machine block make the RF cyclotron heating system. And the very last one is just an electronic circuit with copper cables around it. The ohmic heating system. Ooh, ominous. And all 4 of these are components that go inside the fusion reactor when I open its GUI. Alright, I'm gonna come up there. This is bugging me. What are you doing? What? What did I do? How have I angered thee? We're gonna have this out right now because I'm getting a little tired of this. Alright? I'm gonna get you! I don't know what you are, I'm gonna get... On second thought, probably not a good idea to fly really high up in a jetpack with a thunderstorm. Oh, good! You get over there every time. Seriously, does lightning always strike at certain regions? Because, if I flew over there, I'd probably get struck. And I don't know if that's even possible. It's just, I really would like to know, have I angered thee in some way? Is it just you don't like all of this junk? Was this like a hollowed island and I just took it and I wasn't supposed to do that? Now you're really angry and you made Thumb Slime spawn on my crops. And then, I disabled that, and now you're even more angry, and you gotta make it thunder all the time. Well, what do you do about it, I have to live here. This is just where I am. Oh, I guess we're friends now. Thank you. Gotta put these down. Alright, so I believe I want the MFSU to go right here. And I'm gonna get on under this. Oh, there's a cave system. What in the good lord? This is well lit. Every time I go somewhere, there's always a cave system. There you go. Go under the floor. Go to the... Oh, no, cave. You can't build here. There's a cave. Well, screw your cave. I want to build. Maybe that's why the sky's always angry at me. I'm always like, oh, screw this, screw that. I'm just so irreverent when it comes to natural buildings, Maybe that it just says, you need to be more respectful to the environment. Yeah, I'm not doing that. See, I never learn. Alright, and this guy, I'm gonna orient him down here. It says power output comes here. There's little cables down here. Yes, cave noise. I know this is a cave and I'm right next to another cave. You don't have to do that every time. Well, I mean, you're programmed to do that, but, maybe you could just lay off a few times. Alright, now to make this a little easier on myself, I think I should think about this in... where do I want these recyclers? Actually, these recyclers are gonna have tubes coming out a few sides, so, maybe I want to hide them under the floor. That could be one way to go. Now I'm gonna need an MV transformer. This thing doesn't have any power in it, so everything should be good. Alright, good. There's the input, medium voltage now. If I need any medium voltage machines here. Alright, let's throw down the low voltage transformer. That's input. Here's output. Great. We'll just dig this room out a little bit more. Screw it. I'm tired of making really long episodes. I'm just gonna end it here. You're gonna have to wait. So I'll be right back in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Click that like button, subscribe, maybe send me a cool message like, oh, you're awesome, or, I would say you're awesome, but that would be an insult, or something, whatever, something cool like that that's random flattery that's totally not true. Whatever. Anyway, so, take care. What? What did I do? How have I angered thee? Well, screw your cave. I want to build.